Welcome back to AM Northwest. Why does a crying baby cause a flood of stress hormones for a mother? Or hearing a favorite song send a wave of energy through the body? Here to share the science behind these reactions, we welcome the author of Sound Medicine, Dr. Kulreet Chaudhary. Doctor, good to have you with us. This is fascinating. So what propelled you to do this research? Like, what motivated you?
Well, I've been a lifelong meditator. When I was very young, my mom introduced me to it because meditating actually helped reverse her thyroid condition. And meditation was just simply the use of sound for healing. So it was always something that I was exposed to, but it wasn't until I was a neurologist and began prescribing, sound meditation for my patients with neurodegenerative conditions that I see just how powerful this is. And I needed to understand. I knew it worked, but I needed to understand, why does this work so well, and why does it work almost better than anything else?
Well, that is fascinating. Give me an example of the patients that have gone through this and tell me what you saw before and after.
The largest group that I treated were patients with multiple sclerosis. Now, Helen, this was already a group where we were doing dietary interventions.
Right.
We were starting them on natural supplements. So they were already making healthy choices. But what I did is I took half of the group and had them do a sound medicine practice. And the other half was doing all of the other right things in terms of diet and lifestyle. And what I saw was that the group that did the sound medicine, they had fewer episodes of remission, but even beyond their physical symptoms, they were experiencing more peace in their relationships. There was more harmony at work. It wasn't just their physical health, but their entire health improved. And, that was exciting, but it also really bothered me as a neurologist and as a neuroscientist, because I wanted to know, why was this so powerful?
Yeah. Well, I've got to believe then, does it have something to do with the type of music they're listening to, the type of sounds they're listening to?
So it has to do with several different things. And for this particular group, we were actually introducing them to mantra meditation. So that's a sound with no meaning.
Right.
Meaning there's absolutely no meaning behind it. They were just simply repeating a sound that it has a certain vibratory code. And as it turns out, sound has the ability to reprogram the brain. You were talking about the Blues Festival and how exciting it is to have music back.
Yeah.
Why is it that music has such a strong emotional response? It's because music can actually go in and change the way that your brain is firing. And when your brain changes the way that it's firing, your body actually shifts its biochemistry.
So what is the most healing sound we can listen to? Is it the mantra that you were just talking about?
Mantras that I have in my research, mantras are among the most powerful sounds, again, because they don't have any intrinsic meaning.
Okay.
And they're sounds that are passed down from every imaginable culture because they're primordial sound, meaning they replicate a certain frequency in nature that is inherent for healing. And people are usually think that, you have to go to some, far off place to find these mantras. But I always remind that, even with the Christian tradition, amen, from my perspective and my research, is a sacred sound.
Yeah.
So these sounds are everywhere. We're just simply not using them for healing.
Is there a sound that does the reverse, makes you feel bad?
Yes. And, unfortunately, most of us don't realize that that negative dialogue that we're constantly having in our brain, that's one of the worst sounds, that you can expose yourself. Basically, the sounds of criticism, the sounds of shame. And so many of us have been programmed with that dialogue, that inherent silent inner dialogue from childhood, because our parents, have that passed down. And so we play that dialogue all the time. And even research is showing is that dialogue is responsible for 95% of our behaviors and decisions, and it's mostly negative. So when you introduce these healing sounds, they actually start to replace that dialogue and introduce a new frequency.
You've talked too about the type of music that people listen to, that it can change, help your intellect, help your memory. What do you suggest for that?
I would first begin just looking at your music selection and look at, how does it make you feel? Are you listening to music that makes you feel violent or makes you feel sad?
Sure.
first just simply choosing music that's uplifting. But then when we start going into the actual science of sound, sound that is more mathematically based, like classical music, has a better effect on the brain. And studies even show that just listening to classical music can help conditions like Alzheimer's disease, traumatic brain injury, and they're actually helping to reverse, some of the, very common neurocognitive issues that go along with that. And that's simply just listening to music for a few minutes every single day.
What about the sound of like birds chirping in the morning? I feel like that's the most calming sound, or a cat purring. Those are two of my favorites. Cat purring, birds in the morning.
Or the sounds of the ocean.
The ocean, yeah.
So when we talk about these primordial sounds in the form of mantras that have been passed on for millennia, those sounds replicate those sounds in nature. So what that means is that somehow in those sounds of nature, there is a certain frequency that's being passed on to your brain. And so these sounds that have been passed on, from ancient traditions as mantras, they replicate those frequencies. So that's exactly what mantras are. They're frequencies of nature. And that's why nature sounds are so healing.
Wow, fascinating, absolutely fascinating. The book again is titled Sound Medicine. Dr. Kulreet Chaudhary, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Helen. And I was so happy to hear about the birds because, again, they're providing sounds of nature.
Exactly. Thank you. We'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.